Let's color our picture of a dinosaur. If you still have any pencil lines, you'll want to erase them before we start coloring with marker. Because once we color them with marker, if you can still see them, they'll be much harder to erase and might not erase all the way. I'm going to move my drawing so we can talk about the markers we're using. Today we're going to use a marker that looks like this to color with, and the really great thing about these markers is they can make two kinds of lines. They can make smooth, long, thick lines, or small, pointy detail lines. This marker is called a chisel tip marker. This tip of the marker has the part where the ink comes out. It's actually also called the nib, and it makes these two kinds of lines depending on if you're holding it with more of the marker touching the paper or less of the marker touching the paper. It's a good idea to practice on an extra piece of paper how to make both of those lines, because we'll need them both when we color. When we're coloring our dinosaur, it's a good idea also to think about what kind of colors you want to use before you get started. You can always test colors on that practice paper if you're not sure what kind of color it makes. That can help you figure it out. I'm going to start with this color for the belly of my dinosaur, and I want to be really careful as I'm using the marker to go around the edge. I'm going to color all of these segments that I drew for the belly the same, so that's why I'm going over them. But we do want to do our best to go slowly and carefully so we can stay in the lines and do a good job. Whenever I'm finished with a color, I want to close the marker really carefully so it doesn't dry out and lots of other people can use it. When I'm coloring a big area like the body of the dinosaur, I want to make sure I'm going around the edge first. It's basically like another layer of tracing, and I'm doing that with my wide line. That way I can be smooth and careful. And also anything on the inside I want to go around as well. So I want to go around these spots because I want them to be a different color. This can take a little bit of time and practice, but it's going to help our artwork look much more finished and polished. When I need to, I can use the pointy tip of the marker to get a small detail line. And I personally also like to turn my artwork as I'm going, since that helps me control my hand a little bit better. So you'll notice as I'm coloring, I'm also turning the artwork and moving it so that I can reach it the most easily for me. That's another tip to help us color really neatly. Now that I've outlined my whole shape, then I'm ready to fill it in with smooth strokes of color. If I go in one direction and then pick the marker up again, it's both going to be faster and neater. Even if you have little areas like this that you have to fill in again, it's going to help our markers last a lot longer and stay a lot nicer. I'm going to show you the kind of coloring that we don't want to do and why we don't want to do it. The coloring we don't want to do looks like this. Why? It's a lot messier. It takes a lot longer if I was going to try and fill those in. And over time it can destroy the nib or the tip of my marker. To keep our nib or tip of the marker nice and neat, I can do smooth strokes of color and pick it up. And if I need to add an extra one in the middle, that's okay. And then it sort of makes a really cool stripe-like pattern on our dinosaur too, and that's a bonus. I'm still doing smooth strokes as I fill in the head of my dinosaur. And I would do that for the whole body. You can use any colors you want as you color in your picture. I think I might use a purple color next for the mountains I drew in the background. As I'm starting to color, I did the same thing. I outlined first, and then I'll fill it in with smooth strokes of color. Our art doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to do our best so that it looks really nice, and we're learning how to use our art supplies carefully and with skill. If you want to use more than one color in a section, like I'm going to use a few different sunset colors for the background, make sure to start with the lightest color first. That way we'll keep the nib from getting the darker markers on it. So we want to start with the light color if we're using more than one color in a section. And I'm still going to trace the edge. I'm using smooth, gentle strokes in one direction. And then I'm going to make a section where I'm going to sort of stop with this color. So I'm going to stop with this color about right here. And then I can trace along the edge of the dinosaur so I don't run into it. And trace the edge of the paper. And then fill in this section. For me, to make those long smooth lines, it's easiest to do that vertically. So I'm turning my paper so I can gently pull the marker towards me. I don't have to go the whole way down, but I want to work in relatively smooth strokes of color so that we can do our very best work. I'm going to add some more of the rest of the sunset colors I'm using, and then I'll be just about done. Remember, I'm closing the markers each time. Here I can make a new section. And it's okay if this one goes a little bit over the yellow, because I'm working from light to dark. So since this one's darker, it won't get this marker muddy or messy if it goes over. And that's why I did it like that. I'm coloring pretty fast because I have a lot of experience coloring. If it takes you a little longer to color each part, that's okay, because we want to do our very best work. I'm excited to see the colors you choose on your artworks today.